Hello, and welcome to the Product Experience podcast. This week, Randy has a chat with Tetiana Telensak of Merck Group. She's the head of product for data and AI in healthcare and R&D.
Tetiana, thank you so much for joining us today, live and in person here in Berlin.
Happy to meet you as well, and thank you for having me here.
So for the people here in Berlin, they've seen you on stage, they've had a proper introduction to you, but the people listening, not so much yet. So can you just give us a quick introduction? What are you doing these days, and how did you get into product in the first place?
So I am Tetiana Telensak. I am Director for Data and AI Products in Healthcare Research and Development at Merck KGaA, Darmstadt, Germany. And Merck has a 350-year history. It operates in life science, electronics, and healthcare, and has more than 60,000 employees. So I joined Merck approximately 3 years ago, and I was the first product leader in our group data office. So my focus was always, and still is, on building internal products that help Merck to be competitive on the market. And this month, actually, I transitioned to healthcare business. And currently, I'm responsible for building a new platform to analyze results of our clinical trials so that Merck can get all the approvals and release new drugs to the market.
Oh, fascinating.
And actually, my background is consulting, so I used to work at a big four company and consult a lot of large German organizations on AI strategy, AI governance, and building data offices. That's why this topic is really something very special for me. And I have spent this space last 9 years and had this pleasure of observing hypes, successes, and failures. And I'm very looking forward to our conversation.
So on stage earlier, we talked a little bit about all this, and I want to talk about your approach to building with AI. But you had a really spicy take that I loved. You're leaning into the AI hype. How are you using AI hype for good?
Well, there are different opportunities how you can use this hype for good. In my past, before 2022, before this hype around ChatGPT and LLMs, it was very hard to place this topic around AI and are we AI ready as a company, and is our portfolio is ready for AI transformation? It was very hard to place such topics to the senior management. They would not be interested, especially if your maybe financial results are fine. You would think, okay, I'm fine with that. Why do I need to look on all that stuff? And with this hype, this sense of urgency is there. And as one of the presenters today showed, like last year, each CEO at least once asked, what do we do with AI? Are we ready for that? And I think it's a great trend because we want to be competitive. We want that our economy grows further. And this AI revolution will be relevant for any kind of business or any kind of industry. And you better start early to experiment, to understand how that works. Is it something for my business model? And if yes, in which regard? Because you don't start just to build it just for the sake that you can show it on your slides. Maybe you still do it if you're a startup, but at least for established companies like Merck, you still need time to figure out how that works. So when someone from the business or from your management approaches you and say, hey, can we do this with AI, or can we build this LLM-based chatbot? I would always first say yes, but, and then you can think on your specific situation. So maybe you need more budget, and you think, I can think about that, but actually I need additional funding for this. Or maybe you were struggling with getting more engineers in your team, and you can say, well, for this topic, I actually need 2 additional data scientists and 1 LLM ops engineer, so that they can help me building this. And as a product manager, you still have your job to figure out what will be useful and usable together with UX research designer, what is good for your users. But you can use this opportunity to negotiate more resources and also maybe do something good for your career, because you will be working on some trendy topic that will also increase your value as a product manager, because you get experience in the most cutting-edge technologies on the market. But yeah, that doesn't mean that you just build something, releases it, and then everyone is happy. I'm just telling, use this opportunity and still take care of your users and that they get value out of it.
Right. So If my boss comes up to me and says, hey, can we use AI to build this? The first instinct is say yes, even if this is a slightly silly thing that you don't agree with, because you'll be getting the resources, you'll be learning, you'll be getting everything. And by the time you launch that, you'll find 5 other use cases.
Which can be helpful. So that's why I would say yes to it. And the second aspect here is to have a dialogue with your manager or with CEO of your company. What is AI about? Because you need to start building expectations on what is possible. And you start it as early as possible in this overall journey. Because I had situation in the past as I was customer success lead at DataQ, and I had a client from automotive industry. And DataQ has a product so that you can do some data analysis just with clicks without coding. And the engineers from this automotive company thought that you just do a couple of clicks, and then your AI model is ready, and everyone is happy, and everything works and deployed in production just with this couple of clicks. But it doesn't work like that. But I think a lot of people who don't have background in AI, but maybe also don't have generally technical background, have very high expectations on how that works. And that's why when I would answer yes to this executive, I would add, but I need budget, and please let me explain what is possible to do with it generally.
Right. So AI is not magic pixie dust.
Yes.
The word just doesn't mean we can do something magically and have it just happen. Do you want your CEO or your sales manager or whoever your requester is to be really educated, to know the difference between LLMs and ML and whatever else? Or do they not need to know that, like in the same way that they don't really understand the rest of the tech stack? How educated and involved should they be in understanding these things?
It's a great question. It's a bit similar discussion like, does any product manager have to code or to know Python by heart and such things? In tech world, there is one role which is very important, which is not a data scientist or data engineer. It's so-called translator. And it's people who understand partially business side of processes, and they also understand technical processes. And they're not necessarily subject matter experts in the business area, and they're not necessarily the best coders or engineers, but they can connect these two words together. And why I'm saying this, I think that it's important that these managers or executives can understand potential of AI and have basic understanding what it means from technical perspective. They don't have to be experts in deployment of AI model or be experts in coding in Python, but some basic understanding is important because later you will ask maybe for a new infrastructure or you ask for additional technical experts for a particular niche in this area, and you have to explain people why. So they need to have a conceptual, general understanding what is AI, what is possible to do with it, and then leave the rest to the product team to get it done in a proper way. And which algorithm it will be, either you would use more traditional machine learning, like, I don't know, decision tree, linear regression, or maybe hierarchical clustering, or your product team will decide to use large language models. Leave it to them. But I think what is very important to have this high-level understanding what is potential of AI and what kind of commitments I, as a manager, have actually to do in order that my organization is enabled to deliver an AI product.
This episode is brought to you by Pendo, the only all-in-one product experience platform.
Do you find yourself bouncing around multiple tools to uncover what's happening inside your product?
In one simple platform, Pendo makes it easy to both answer critical questions about how users engage with your product and take action.
First, Pendo is built around product analytics, enabling you to deeply understand user behavior so you can make strategic optimizations.
Next, Pendo lets you deploy in-app guides that lead users through the actions that matter most.
Then, Pendo integrates user feedback so you can capture and analyze how people feel and what people want.
And a new thing in Pendo, session replays, a very cool way to experience your users' actual experiences.
There's a good reason over 10,000 companies use it today.
Visit pendo.io/podcast to create your free Pendo account today and try it yourself.
Want to take your product-led know-how a step further? Check out Pendo and Mind the Product's lineup of free certification courses led by product experts and designed to help you grow and advance in your career.
Learn more today at pendo.io/podcast. I think back when I was more of a hands-on operational product manager, I very much prided myself in being that translator. I said I can speak geek to executive and executive to geek. And I would tell my dev teams, if you can't do this, if it's harder than we thought, you need to be able to explain it to me well enough that I can then explain it to somebody else.
Yeah.
And it was similar, asking the executive, why are we making this decision rather than that decision? But yeah, being able to say, I didn't have to know how to code, but I also needed to know, well, connecting this to that is possible,
Exactly.
but there are complications and we need to give them time for it.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. So for people who are coming into this and learning how to in this space for the first time, what do you recommend for product people who are really just getting starting with their experiments? How do they learn the details, the intricacies of how to actually deploy these models?
It's a good question. I think you generally would start with some conceptual work, even in looking into already available use cases in your domain, because probably someone already maybe tried something out and you could find this information or use your network for that. So kind of first get an idea, what is this exact business process where I would like to try out how I can enhance it or improve this process or maybe solve some particular business problem. So we kind of have to idea about the domain, what exactly you would like to solve with AI. That's the first thing. Second thing is, of course, you need to have in your engineering team people who are knowledgeable of how foundational models work like. In the past, with traditional kind of machine learning models, there was a particular life cycle of building a product. You would start with business understanding, that you have data understanding, that you would start coding your model, you will refine it a lot of times, and then at some point when you're happy with the results, you would like to deploy it. The interesting thing with large language models is that this phase of prototyping is very short. You can do it like within a couple of hours and already see some results. I don't say you get very good results, but you definitely get already something that you can work on, iterate, and so on. And that's why you as a product manager need to understand how that works conceptually and have an idea how AI can help in your very specific process or user problem. And on the other side, your engineering team also needs to build this knowledge. That's why we had this discussion today also during the conference. I would start with some idea which might not be the best or most mind-blowing idea how AI can improve your whole life, but with something very tangible, and maybe this simple chatbot is already a way how you get there. Like if I talk about healthcare R&D, there are huge expectations how AI can help. We start, like one example here might be to do analysis of data across different studies. Another example would be, especially in the areas of generative AI, that it can help us to develop faster new molecular structures for the new drugs. But it's a long way to get there. And it's not only about that you have now one new machine learning model, it's also about changing how we work and how we think about our work. So it doesn't happen over the night. That's why I would always recommend start small and then you learn on the way. And maybe at some point you will get up to this very fancy use cases that Google, Meta, and Co are working. But also in that companies, it didn't happen over the night.
No, makes perfect sense. So in lots of companies, we can start with these experiments and it's okay if we get it wrong. But in healthcare, it's not so much okay. So maybe it is for experimentation purposes, but you're not going to be rolling that stuff out. What are the things that you need to keep in mind when you're trying to move from experimentation mode to actual useful production mode? What kind of things do you really need to worry about and bring into the process?
So currently for this platform for analysis of clinical trials, we don't use AI. We do statistic analysis of results of the studies because this is what is required by the regulatory bodies in order that they make a decision, yes or no. There are, however, a lot of other products that we built in Merck in different domains that also have AI capabilities. I think the most important thing is, of course, that it brings actually expected outcome for this user group. But apart from that, we have a lot of topics around data protection, data compliance, upcoming AI Act. And all these regulations are very important for us so that the users, but maybe even Merck shareholders, can trust us what we build. And this is very important. For example, we have currently an internal version of ChatGPT because Merck has official partnership with OpenAI. And people like to put their personal data there. So we built specific functions so that as soon as a user enters this personal data into the chat, it will be automatically deleted because it's not allowed. We don't want to deal with it, and it's a very bad practice. But you still know that some users will do it. So you need to build mechanism how this product can be still trustworthy. And there are a lot of such tricks that you need to think about. And whatever we built in this internal version of ChatGPT, we always agreed with our workers' council. We go to our internal IT security team, data protection team, and a lot of other stakeholders that are important for us to make sure that it's legal and compliant. And it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it's not only something for a large organization. I think that doesn't matter what is your size or how fast you want to be in your delivery, you still have to consider all those aspects in your work.
So stepping back a little bit, to make sure that we're doing everything right in a space like this, we're not just dealing with user-generated content. We have to have really high-quality data, and we have to operate in an environment that we know how to navigate. As in the rules, the regulations, the laws, they have to be something that we know how to navigate. What is that like right now? Are we mature enough in society? Do we have good enough data? Is the regulatory structure there to really support this, or is it still something that we're catching up on?
I think it is development phase. Today at the conference, we talked about what it means to have an AI native product and what do you need to get done in order that it works like that. And we talk, okay, you need to have this knowledge in your product team, but it's not only about your own team, it's also about the ecosystem in which you work. So if you have partners in your ecosystem and they work with paper, well, you can only automate or gather data about yourself. However, there are a lot of initiatives in this area. Even Merck, KGaA, is cooperating here with Palantir, and they have one joint venture which is called Syntropy. And this is something like a data sharing platform where you can host in one platform like healthcare data from different institutions, from hospitals, from research departments of universities, from pharmaceuticals companies, all in one place in trusted environment and with all their security compliance rules as needed. And there are examples also in other industries like this about creating these data sharing platforms between the companies. And it's very important because normally your value chain is not only within your own company. You have different contractors, you have different suppliers, and all this ecosystem needs to grow together so that you are enabled actually to build this AI native product. And one example here is that when we submit the results of clinical trials, we submit them in SaaS, it's a specific commercial vendor, or in R programming language. But we potentially could not submit the results in Python because currently their regulatory authorities would not accept this in Python.
Oh, interesting.
That's why I think it's a journey for commercial companies like Merck, but it's also a journey for authorities and everyone else involved in this space. And it has to take some time.
Okay, so there's a challenge there. There's also a challenge in making sure you have enough people that can do so. We talked earlier about using the hype to open up, getting the approval to recruit more people, which is great. But when you are recruiting those people, what are you looking for these days? Are you looking for people who have 7 years of AI skill, or are you looking for someone who's got the aptitude and you can train them yourself?
I think probably like soft skills is always priority number one. What is your attitude? Are you hungry to learn something new? Are you curious about the last trends on the market? Do you owning your topic? Are you burning for your job? And then there is a second aspect about your technical expertise, or what I always call data literacy. And I think that the second aspect is also very important. And that's why, especially in my case, because I mostly build infrastructure products, for me it's very important that this person has some technical background. You don't have to have a master in computer science. I, by myself, studied journalism, but you still need to have experience in this space. And when an engineer is complaining about something, you have to have high-level understanding what he complains about and how you can maybe help him to get it solved. And that's why, in my case, I mostly look for people with a technical background, for example, data scientists, who have interest in more customer and user-facing roles, because they in the past normally already built several prototypes, and they have then this intrinsic motivation, okay, I want now to build something that really works, and I want to understand what needs to be done, that this model is not only perfect from technical perspective, but brings that outcome that was expected, actually, from the business side. And that's why, in my case, I really like to work with data scientists who want to be product managers. But I understand that there might be another way around, of course, that product manager gets more technical. But it's a hard job, and it's very challenging. With all the last developments happening around foundational models, it takes a lot of time, but we have no choice. We have to be on the edge of everything that happens on the market, because this is a job of a product manager. And it's a lot of expectations on this job.
Well, as someone who has a degree in biology and journalism, I very much appreciate that answer. Tetiana, thank you. This was a wonderful conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Me too. Thank you for having me here, and see you again.
The Product Experience hosts are me, Lily Smith, host by night and Chief Product Officer by day.
And me, Randy Silver, also host by night. And I spend my days working with product and leadership teams, helping their teams to do amazing work.
Luran Pratt is our producer, and Luke Smith is our editor.
And our theme music is from product community legend Arnie Kittler's band, POW. Thanks to them for letting us use their track.